Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker go head-to-head in a massive heavyweight clash this weekend in what can only be described as an absolutely huge card on February 22nd. In this video, I'm going to be doing a game film analysis, breaking down the fighters, breaking down their tendencies, and highlighting the areas where I feel the fight will be won and lost. I've noticed a couple of really key things in both men's styles. I've watched a lot of Daniel Dubois now, and I really feel like I know how Parker can win this fight. I've got real belief that there is a way that Parker can do it. Can he do it? That is the question we'll be trying to answer. And what are the things that Dubois needs to do to win? I'll get into it all in this analysis. Hello everyone and welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. I promised you I would get this breakdown done. It took me a lot of time because I really wanted to research this fight properly. I feel like Joseph Parker's a fighter that I've watched for a long time, but I've never really thought about the nuances of his style and what I think he is and isn't able to do. I feel like it's really hard to describe how I feel about Parker. I feel that he's a good boxer. He's got fast hands. He's got a lot of things, but I don't feel like he's got a really distinctive style. I feel like it's a sort of more athletic one, but he is also a good boxer. Dubois, on the other hand, he's had this massive ascension recently, and I feel like I actually have a much greater appreciation for what he is able to do in the ring than I had previously. And I think that it's really interesting. I actually put a poll out yesterday of who people think was going to win this fight. And right now, Joseph Parker is winning that poll, which I actually found a little bit surprising because I thought that the public opinion was very much with Dubois right now. Needless to say, we're going to get into this. But before we do, please bang a like on the video. Please help support my channel, guys. You know a lot of work goes into these. And I've really noticed some interesting things going into this one. And I've essentially constructed a plan for how both men win this fight. Now, what this might come down to is athleticism, is boxing ability, is will. But outside of that, in these videos, we focus on technique and tactics. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So bang a like on the video. Please subscribe to A Guy Called Henry if you're new. We're growing fast. I want you all to be a part of it. If you love boxing, come and subscribe to this channel because I'm going to be producing nothing but high quality content. And get your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of this breakdown. Let me know what you think each man needs to do to win. And make your prediction. Who do you think is going to win and how do you think they're going to do it? Finally, if you are going to buy this fight with DAZN, if you'd like to buy this fight with DAZN, please use my link in the description. It helps to support my channel, and every penny counts, guys. You know, I'm not making much doing these at the minute. Hopefully there will be one day and you'll all be with me for the journey. But as it stands, if you can help me by supporting me by using my link, I'd really, really appreciate it. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about looking at this breakdown, and I'm going to put some highlights over the top of this just to so you can get a feel of it, is movement. And I think that movement will be what decides this fight, most likely. Now, there's some other key details, really key details that I will get into, but the way that these two men are able to move, it absolutely fascinates me because I think Dubois is an extremely underrated mover as a heavyweight. And when I did my analysis for the AJ fight, I said that I felt that Dubois, when he went into that sort of bouncy mode, that was when he was at his best. That's when he can make you miss and make you pay. And actually, his straight line speed is very, very good. He's very, very quick with his feet. He's good at changing the angles quickly. There's nothing plodding about Dubois when he goes into that sort of foot speed mode. And he's difficult to keep off you because he can keep his front foot close to you. And that was why AJ had such a hard time counterpunching. He wasn't making the small adjustments with his feet that he needed to. And overall, I think Dubois' foot speed is very, very good. Very athletic feet, very good legs. Now, what Parker is able to do well is make small adjustments continuously with his feet. And he has that ability to move laterally, to move side to side, to create angles and get away from the person in front of him. He's not the tallest heavyweight. He's not a small heavyweight by any means, Parker, but he's not the tallest. And he's been able to go in there with some very good heavyweights and win. I mean, you look at the Zhilei Zhang fight, he was able to go in there and get that win against a guy who was a bigger man with a bigger reach, but ultimately he was able to box and move. And it's something Parker's always been able to do. Use his quick hands, use his quick feet, use his slickness to go in there and outbox guys. So I very much view this as a battle of straight line speed versus lateral movement. Now, for the first bit of analysis that I want to get into, where I'm going to slow things down and get my annotation tool out, the first thing I want to look at is the fault and flaws in the way that Parker utilizes this style of movement. Now, to begin, I want to show you the Zhilei Zhang knockdown because this demonstrates when Parker has lapses in concentration when he gets too comfortable. So if you look here, there's a decent gap between them. You know, they're not really in range right now. There's a good gap between their feet, but one step changes all of that in boxing. And what Parker typically does is he'll take little steps back, as I've just shown you. He'll take little steps back to here. He'll go this way. He'll move around this way. And he's just constantly changing the point that he's in so that, it's quite hard to land clean shots on him. But sometimes he can be a bit susceptible to crossing his feet, to moving slowly. I'll show you examples of this. But here, he's just sitting in the pocket for too long. And what happens? Zhang steps in. Zhang takes one step forward. And the second that foot lands, you see how they're suddenly close there. He's now in range. Lead foot battle is always a thing in boxing. And of course, Zhang's a southpaw. So if you get your foot close, ideally he'd want his foot to be more like here, just to the side. But you line up that backhand, but because he's longer than Parker, he doesn't need to get his foot to the outside. He can just have it straight in front, and that's no problem. And from there, he just leans in. And Zhang is so powerful. You see how little he turns his body. Boom. And he lands clean on Parker's chin. So that's one example there. Parker was in there with a big puncher with, good technical ability, but slow feet, low output. And he's still got caught because he can get caught sitting in the pocket like that. Now, just to give you another example of this sort of proneness I see Parker having to sitting in the pocket, Wilder is a fighter that has truly poor feet. There's no doubt about that. He's got bad boxing footwork. But we have to give credit where it's due. And one thing he is very, very good at and always has been is moving in straight lines, at launching himself into range and landing his 1-2. Now, he seems to have become gun shy. He seems to not be able to deliver the punches anymore. But he still moves his feet quickly. And I just want to show you this moment here that looks pretty innocuous. But I think this tells us something. This tells us a story. So watch. Wilder's there. He dips. And you see the gap between them here, I should just point out. It's a good gap. That's not, you would feel safe there. But when a guy moves quickly in straight lines, this is a bit of an issue. So Wilder steps in. And Parker doesn't really move. He leans back slightly, and he parries Wilder's jab with his backhand there. But and Wilder does follow him with the right hand, and Parker gets slightly hit on the head there. The point is that he doesn't get hit clean there. But against a robust fighter like Dubois, who comes in quickly, I think that would be a problematic scenario far more than with Wilder, because Wilder, I just think his judgment distance has gone slightly, and his accuracy isn't what it was. I'll show you one more example. You see it here again. Good space between them. Way out of range. Wilder's walking around him. And he steps his foot. Boom. Launches in. And gets his foot close. Parker doesn't move. He's got his hands up, but he doesn't move. For some unknown reason, Wilder pulls his punch. And Parker does take half a step back. He steps in. If he'd thrown his shot there, he lands it. But instead, Parker takes half a step back and moves out of range again. That was exemplary of Wilder's gun shyness. But and Parker also, to be fair, in that fight, he was on the front foot. He was taking center ring, which I don't anticipate him doing against Dubois. But the point is, you close the gap quickly on him, or you step into his space. Sometimes he'll just sit there. I don't really know why. It's probably a stamina thing. It's probably a concentration thing. After the knockdowns against Zhang, and he got knocked down again later on, but generally speaking, after the knockdown against Zhang, Parker was much sharper with his movement, much more alert. But he does have these mental lapses. Here's another example with the Joe Joyce fight that Parker obviously lost by knockout. And interestingly enough, in this one, what's interesting about Joe Joyce is that even though he has some of the slowest hands known to man in the professional ring, his feet are very quick. I say very quick. They're very quick for a heavyweight. He's got good feet, Joe Joyce. Again, similar to Dubois. So that's where they're most similar, is that they both have pretty fast feet. And you watch here, there's a bit of a gap between them. They're just coming out of an exchange here, pivoting around. There's a bit of a gap. Watch here. So Joyce takes one step back. Parker takes a step back and brings his feet together. He's sort of slowly pendulum stepping. Steps back. All Joyce does here is step his foot in, gets it close, and as Parker is moving back in a straight line, Joyce unloads a jab and hits him on the chin. I want to show you this full sequence here of what happens, because I think that this is something I could imagine with Dubois. So here, again, feet are quite close here, and Parker, as he likes to do, is moving back. Again, should probably make it a bit more of a curved motion, but he's moving back a bit too straight here. As a result of that, Joyce steps in, Parker's moving back fairly straight, touches the glove, slings in an overhand right, just misses, but what he does here is that he steps through with the jab straight away. So instantly he gets that foot close. Parker's got minimal space to exit. He's too close to the ropes, really, so he has to eat a jab. Boom. Now, the other thing I want you to notice here is the position of Parker's hands when he's on the back foot. They are low. His chin is exposed. That's why he can hit him in the face there. And for those of you that remember what happened in the Anthony Joshua fight, as I'll show you in a minute, I'm sure you can understand why I'm pointing that out. Now, let's take a look at Dubois and his ability to close that gap very, very quickly. And this is not a exact replica of what I've just shown you with Parker with the low hands, but the low hands are significant because with Dubois, with the speed he can close the gap, you have to be alert at all times. So what I want to show you here, and I've broken this down in more detail, and this sequence of movement was something Dubois noticed in Joshua before, in this first round, before this major knockdown. But what I really want to draw your attention to here is the fact that Joshua's hands were low and the fact that he's not moving in straight lines, which are actually somewhat more readable. He's trying to exit out this way. And he's going away from Dubois' backhand, so you'd think it was a smart move. But what happens here is, Dubois, as I mentioned, he noticed the pattern of movement during the round. He reads it, he steps back, he knows Joshua wants to go this way, and so he cuts it off. And Joshua was doing this thing where he was extending this hand as well. You see that hand there? He was extending that. And Dubois just fires over the top and absolutely smashes AJ. And that's such a huge shot, which obviously caused the first knockdown and totally scrambled AJ for the rest of the round. But the way that Dubois is able there to very quickly bounce and then jump into range, with AJ's low hands there, he wasn't ready for it. He didn't anticipate that he was in a zone where he was in danger there, but he was. And as you can see with Parker, that is something he can be a little bit susceptible to himself. Just to show you again here, Dubois is stalking Joshua at this point. Second round, bit of a gap between them here, so Joshua will feel fairly safe trying to exit this way or exit this way. But Dubois is so good at pressing the action quickly. Watch what he does. Now, watch what happens here. Joshua steps across, you see? This foot moves from here to here. He crosses his feet, therefore creating a lack of balance, and Dubois attacks at that exact moment. It's a foot fault, and Dubois notices it, so he steps in really quickly. You see he loads his back leg, he lunges in, and he throws the jab, which Joshua blocks, but then he gets him on the ropes, and Joshua covers up with a high guard, and he starts throwing hooks and all sorts of stuff. But the point is, you see how quickly he closes the gap there, and then uses his physical strength on the inside to back him up on the ropes. His foot speed is good. I really think his foot speed was the reason he beat Joshua, and his ability to notice when the right time to move was. I want to show you this movement here. Joshua, again, trying to move away. There's a decent gap between their feet here, but Joshua on the back foot. But look at this movement from Dubois here. One bounce, boom, bounces in, and he's in range. And he goes to the side of Joshua as well. Like, what's smart about that is Joshua's always exiting out this way. So he bounces in to cut it off. One bounce, lands a hook, and Joshua's trying to get away, but Dubois just, pressing it. And look at this. Joshua's basically running backwards. Dubois just chasing him down, applying that pressure, and AJ goes down for another count there. But I just wanted to show you, really, that ability to bounce, that foot speed, that ability to close the gap, and the timing of it as well. Always does it when he can read AJ's exit or when he sees a foot fault. I want to show you this from Parker quickly, just to show you why the foot fault point is particularly relevant. Now, because whilst Parker has good feet, he has good movement, he has good lateral movement, he moves intelligently, he is susceptible to foot faults. And I'm just going to show you one example because it's not that fun watching foot faults, especially ones that weren't capitalized on. But this is an innocuous looking moment against Joe Joyce. He lands a jab, he dips under it, and then watch what happens here. Watch what he does with his feet here. So he just steps back, hands down, steps back, and Joyce steps through with a jab. So he's crossing his feet there, and you know that Dubois can close that gap really, really quickly. Little moments like that tell me that Dubois' feet, the movement, that advantage may actually be with Dubois because of that athleticism, that speed, the fact he can move like that for a long time throughout the fight. It's fascinating to me. So in summary, from that first part of the video, Dubois needs to apply the pressure, attack when Parker makes those foot faults, and he needs to just keep the pressure on, basically. Now, assuming that Parker can actually keep his balance, keep his feet good, and try and maintain the distance between the two of them, keep his hands up, be alert at all times, there are things he can do if he can establish that base for his game in this fight, which is why I see this being a very interesting fight. If he makes a mistake early, it could go early, but equally, if he can remain disciplined for a long time, I see opportunities and ways that Joseph Parker can attack Daniel Dubois. The first thing I want to show you here is a particular strength of Daniel Dubois. It's probably the best tool he's got in his offensive arsenal, and that is his power jab. Now, I just want to quickly break down for you this shot and why it's so powerful and how it works, basically. And then we're going to get into some things that I think can be done with this that could actually turn it into a potential opportunity for Joseph Parker. Now, you look at the stance of Dubois here. He is typically quite a square fighter. His shoulders are quite square. His legs are fairly side on. He doesn't fight with square feet, square shoulders, which means that you get more leverage on the lead hand because it's turned more square. So there's more distance for it to go. It also means a short delivery distance for the right hand. But if you watch here, Dubois, he essentially takes a jab here to give one because he knows how hard he can punch with that jab. And because he's square, like I say, it's not like a normal jab. So he takes it to the face, but then boom, watch that. That jab goes in, boom, and it has a much bigger impact on Hrgović than Hrgovic's jab has on Dubois. Again here, this is a combination of what I've been talking about, which is the ability to close the gap quickly and use that lead hand. So watch here, and you see as well, you can see better here what I was talking about the feet. The feet are nice and side on. He's got good balance. But look at the shoulders; they're basically straight like that. So when he gets there, the delivery mechanism will have power instantly. So watch, takes a step forward, and from this position here, it's sort of who moves first because it's a small gap to close. But he steps in and he lands that jab again, and then he goes with a double this time and lands the second one. And that second double jab actually has a lot of power in it, and then he throws that right hook to the body, which is lovely. That's lovely work from Dubois there. Once again here, good gap. Hands are up. As I say, really square shoulders. Steps in, and he slings that jab in. And he does eat a shot at the same time, but that jab is probably as hard as Hrgovic's uppercut. Point is, serious power, and it really commits with it. You can see that he can take a shot after because he does commit with it. And because those shoulders are quite square, he is in range once it's been landed. There's a lot of things to aim for with that square stance. The other thing I want to just quickly show you here with the Dubois stance is he has a very loose guard. So it's square, and this is just something to keep in mind as I move forward because I'm going to be talking about this. He leaves spaces. Even when his hands are higher than that, there's always a gap through the guard. There's always, he has his elbows typically quite flared. There's usually a space to the body and lots to aim for because he is square. It's not just the side or his shoulder. It's the whole front of his torso that's available. Now, the thing I'll show you here, you guys, if you've watched my channel, you'll know about this already. I did this in my breakdown before the Joshua fight, and I did it afterwards because this is something that Dubois has tweaked in his game and really perfected for the AJ fight, and it worked really well. So he does this wedge defense, and I'll show you what that is. So in the Hrgović fight, he got hit with so many right hands. It's because he wasn't getting this wedge defense quite right. He was committed to doing it. He wasn't doing it quite right. He made an adjustment in the AJ fight that allowed it to work. So here we are. Dubois fires in a jab. Joshua tries to counter here. So he fires on the right hand. But you see what Dubois does here to keep it safe, and this is the wedge. He jabs to Joshua's shoulder, and he just keeps it there. You see, he keeps it there. He keeps it extended. He keeps it on Joshua's shoulder there, and thereby stops Joshua's shoulder from rotating correctly. So when Joshua tries to come over the top with that right hand, it misses. And now the tweak that was made from the Hrgović fight was that Dubois, you see his chin, it's tucked in right there behind his shoulder. You can't get to it. Against Hrgović, his chin was more exposed, so Hrgović was able to fire right over the top. I think he may also have slightly longer arms than Joshua from what I could see, so it was maybe easier for him to get over the top of that wedge. But needless to say, there you go. It goes straight over the top, and it finishes there. It's purely because Dubois has kept that jab wedge there. Same thing again here. This is actually a good position for AJ to counter because there's a nice gap between them. Dubois steps in, and as he does it, he jabs. And because Joshua's dipped down, the jab goes straight over the shoulder this time, so he doesn't get purchase on it. But, again, because he's disciplined with that chin tuck, when Joshua fires the right hand over, and he also just tries to press down here to just sort of stop the shoulder rotating correctly. Joshua fires over the top, and it does catch Dubois a bit. It's not going to be comfortable, but it's far from being a clean shot. And again, here, I'll just show you one more. Joshua steps in, little jab, dips down. Dubois is looking, look at his eyes. You can see he's looking at Joshua's right hand and right shoulder. So he's looking to stop it. He jabs to the shoulder straight away. And again, catches him a little bit, but not much. Sting's completely taken off it. So just to show you, that happened multiple times in this fight. The wedge defense works really well for Dubois. And something people have been talking about is Parker's right hand. He landed a lot of right hands against Joe Joyce. I don't think the right hand over the top is the right shot against Dubois. But he has shown what you can do to him. And so I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you here how I think Parker can counter Dubois' jab, how I think he can maybe draw out the wedge and counter that. And this is a basis for his attack. This is a basis for how he might be able to do things. So first example here, and this is just to show you Parker's effectiveness with body hooks. There's not really a counter here per se, but I'll show you this. So Parker just steps in, gets his lead foot right up the middle. And because, again, you see it's similar position here. They're both Joyce is square in the way that Dubois is, but I've shown you the gaps Dubois leaves to the body. He slings in that left hook to the body there and catches Joyce. And because he's in front of him, because he's square, he's able to do that. Again here, Joyce is looking to cut off the angle. Parker dips straight down, slings in a body hook, right hook to the body there. Again, I've shown you the way that those elbows are fled with Dubois, so I think that body hook, the dip down that he does the body hook in, that could be a really good shot for him. Again here, Joyce steps in with the jab. As he steps in, Parker dips down. Again, it's that dip for Parker that I think works well, where he goes down and his front foot is able to come forward at the same time. And he swings to the body. And I think body shots could be really key because he's got to slow Dubois down here as well, because I do think he's the younger, fresher, more athletic man with the better stamina. So he dips down, slings in a right hook to the body, and slings in a left hook to the body. And he goes up top there with a left hook, and it's really nice stuff. Now, I think what is really important with this particular thing is, yes, it would work with a high guard with the flared elbows, but also I think if he can time it off of Dubois' jab, because the difference with Joyce and Dubois, a really big difference actually, is that, yes, Joyce has a heavy jab, and you saw that in the Dubois fight where he made him quit with the broken eye socket, but Dubois really commits with that jab. And so if you can slip it, if you can make him miss, the body will be there. Shots, counter shots will be there. Two more things. I want to show you some moments from the Derek Chisora Parker 2 fight. Uppercut for Parker in this fight was beautiful, really hurt Chisora with it. And I want to show you it because I think it could be applicable in this Dubois fight. If he can time Dubois coming in with that square stance, with that high guard, there is a gap up the middle for the uppercut. Now, you're going to laugh because obviously the uppercut was what got AJ absolutely finished. Dubois did a beautiful job of throwing a straight shot to counter that uppercut, but I'm talking about doing it at the right moment. AJ did it at totally the wrong moment when he was on the front foot, walking towards Dubois. Dubois looking for the counter shot because AJ got overexcited. I'm talking about Parker being on the back foot, waiting for Dubois to enter his space, and then firing it in when it's safe to do so. He's got to do it at the right moment. Uppercut, I think there was a reason, the uppercut's there with the guard that Dubois has, but when he's launching in at you, that's when you can throw that uppercut, or indeed when he's thrown something and he's extended, left himself exposed. So you see here, Chisora steps in, and Parker realizes that, Chisora's not throwing anything in this position here. So he stepped in, Parker dips down, and look, admittedly, this is not a dissimilar position to the AJ knockout, so he's got to be really careful with this. This is almost exactly how he got knocked out, AJ, because look what Parker's hands are. They're low here. But for the square stance, for the high guard, he slings in this uppercut, bosh, hits Chisora on the chin. It's a nice shot, and that is the first knockdown of the fight there. He lands a nice little left hook too for Chisora's troubles, and Chisora goes down there. And of course, the major difference with Chisora and Dubois is that foot speed. The speed at which he can close that gap is far, far superior. But Chisora closing in here, his guard is much tighter as well, Chisora, so there are differences. But he steps in, and I like this. Joyce, this is how you should really set it up to be safe. You touch him upstairs with the jab first, brings his guard up, and then he slings in that uppercut, boom. And Chisora has this habit where he likes to kind of, he drops this hand low typically. I don't know why, but likes to kind of bring his shoulder in, get his right hand across. It's a sort of cross block there, and you can fire up through that, which is exactly what Parker does. So he drops him again there with that shot. And I like this one the best because this is when Chisora's edging his way forward, and Parker just times him well. So Chisora takes his step. You see this foot comes to here. The second he steps in, Parker hits him with the jab, and then he fires that uppercut up straight away. And it's something that Dubois actually does have a bit of a tendency to do, is dip forward at times because he is square like that. Sometimes the only way you can go is down. He dips forward. So I do think there'll be opportunities at the right moment to use that uppercut with the guard, with the space he leaves. I've shown you the body shots as well. I think all that could be available for Parker. Final thing I'll show you is what to do about that wedge, because that wedge defense kind of takes your right hand out of play a little bit unless you do it the right way. As ever, Usyk showing us the way here. He beat Dubois very well. And you'd think that, is there anything anyone can really take from Usyk? Because he's so good, his lateral movement's so good, his jab is so good, his judgment of distance, everything is so good. But there is a fundamental point here with what he does. And you'll see it with a couple other fighters that came after him. So you see here, Dubois, Usyk steps in, and typically he'd be fighting an orthodox fighter. So when they step in, it's the other way around. And that's when he would extend this hand to try and touch the shoulder and stop the shot from rotating. Because it's Usyk's lead hand, that helps. But it still works when it's your backhand. And what he does here is, you watch, he steps his foot forward, but even though his foot goes to the outside, you'll notice that his head goes this way. So he gets his head around that lead hand of Dubois, and he fires inside at the same time. So you see that. Dubois was actually more side on in this fight, interestingly. But anyway, and he fires that shot at the same time. You see it again here. Similar principle, different shot. Usyk steps in, steps his foot to the outside. This is a perfect shot, perfect setup for a southpaw. He gets his foot to the outside. He lines them up nicely. But then watch what happens here. Is Dubois extends the lead hand. His lead hand is there. Usyk's head goes off to the side again. And then he fires that left hand and it hits him clean at the same time. But the point is, if you can get your head to the outside or to the inside of that wedge, then it's possible to land a shot. But the shot has to be the inside hand. Now, what does that mean if you're an orthodox fighter? It means if you get your head to the outside of Dubois' lead hand, it has to be a jab up the inside. If you get your head to the inside, you can throw the right hand up the middle because your shoulder is inside his lead hand, so he can't touch it. I'll show you a couple of examples of the right hand with an orthodox fighter. So typically in the Hrgović fight, he was throwing over the top of that wedge. And whilst he did land a lot of right hands, I think the reason it looked like Dubois had this steel chin and ate so many of them was because that wedge was there. It took the sting off a lot more than I realized at the time. I still believe he's got a great chin and everything, Dubois, and those shots would have hurt, no question. But that wedge was definitely not working properly, but was also taking the sting off. If you watch here, Hrgović comes for a double jab, 2. This is a slightly different one because here, Dubois' gone to put the jab hand out. But you can see what's happened here is he's gone to extend it and he's realized that Hrgović here, if you watch, he stepped his head across this way. So he's got his right hand going inside here instead of outside here. And he comes up the middle and he hits him clean on the chin there. Now Dubois eats that because he's a beast. I'll show you one more example of this. And this one is actually probably the most significant and most telling example because it was the only piece of success Anthony Joshua had against Daniel Dubois. So that's how important I think this factor could be. So unfortunately, the video is sort of transitioning into a highlight video as this happens. But you can kind of see here, AJ steps in, steps his foot forward. And this is the first time in the fight I can remember where AJ doesn't throw over the top of the jab. He gets to the inside of that jab hand. So look where his lines are. It's the first time he gets it right. As he steps in, I showed you before how Dubois stopped those AJ right hands with the wedge. AJ steps this foot forward here. Look at where AJ's head is. It's directly in line with Dubois at the minute. So he steps in, and you see that hand is coming from there, but it goes inside the lead hand. Boom, right up the middle. And he hits it. He lands clean on Dubois there. And you can see Dubois was also a bit slow in that instance as well, but because he gets that head up, and you can see, look, his head ends up. As the right hand lands, Joshua's head is over here. It's over this shoulder of Dubois. So you can see he's brought his head all the way over from here to here, and he's chucked that right hand straight up the middle. And I don't feel like people really talked about this in this sequence because this really was a key factor. Again, he realizes, oh, this is what I need to do. Gets sort of overexcited. So he dips in again here. Again, he chucks the right hand in, and Dubois has tried to do it again. But again, AJ's really taken his head over. So even though Dubois does get his hand to the AJ shoulder there, because AJ's come so, again, brought his head over this way, it means that the right hand isn't going sort of over the right shoulder there. It's going over through the middle. So the wedge doesn't work as well in that situation. And again, on the third one, same thing. AJ gets his head over to the side as he chucks that right hand in and hits him clean again. So obviously that leads to him getting knocked out. We all know what happened. But the point is, the way to beat that wedge is get your head off that center line and chuck the right hand in. Chuck the right hand inside it if possible. And if it doesn't go inside it, at the very least, it'll be going over the end of it rather than over the shoulder where Dubois is protected. Final of couple general considerations for this fight. I fully acknowledge and realize that the guys that Parker has fought recently, I think it's made him look like he's in better form than he is. Wilder looks shot to bits. Had very good one-directional speed of getting his feet in and out of range, but his feet are terrible. He crosses his feet all the time. Parker held center ring in that fight. Kept all the space behind him, was able to move out of range very easily, had much better bounce, much more left than Wilder. And then he fought Zhang, who, whilst really hurt Parker and knocked him down, really poor output. And his good, solid feet, Zhang, very balanced feet, but slow feet. You saw the knockdown, I showed you it. He steps in and he throws, and hands are fast, feet are slow. Against Dubois, he's fighting someone with fast hands, fast feet, high output, high work rate, and he's vicious and he's aggressive and he believes in himself. So this is a whole different test for Parker. But as I've just shown you there, I believe there is a way he can do it. I think he needs to focus, though, on counter-punching. I think he has the ability to make the small adjustments to his feet that Joshua wasn't able to do to create opportunities for himself off when Dubois commits going forward, because I think Dubois will try and steamroll him. I really do. I think if he can keep his composure, he might have to eat some big shots early. If he can get to the later part of the fight, if he can focus on the body, I think he has a chance. Dubois, on the other hand, I feel he has tactically most of the advantages in this one. He's fought better opposition recently. I think that Hrgovic win is a bit underrated. I also think that Joshua win will... I think if Joshua comes back, I think he's got something left still, Joshua. I think Dubois was all wrong for him. Again, he might be all wrong for Parker. Parker at this stage of his career just might not quite have the stamina, the foot speed, the concentration that he once had. And he is going to have to concentrate for 12 rounds because of how quickly Dubois can turn things around and get into your space, into the pocket. But the big question here is for Dubois, and this is really more one for later in the week when I look at the interviews and whatnot, the face-off, the psychological components. Is there a chance he could quit again? Is that quit still in him, or is it gone now? I think it's gone from what I've seen, but I'll see if there's any hint of it when I watch those videos. And Parker will want to hit him regularly and hurt him and put him in a difficult position. But Dubois is an absolute wrecking machine, but there are holes there to exploit. It's just, can you do it, especially when he's moving as fast as he is, as powerful as he is. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this breakdown. I hope you've got something out of it. As I say, you can buy the link via the DAZN link in my description. Helps us support the channel, so I'd really appreciate if you do that. A lot of effort and work going into these. Please like the video, get your comments in below. I want to know what you think. And guys, I cannot bloody wait for this card. I cannot wait for it. It's going to be absolutely excellent. I'm going to be trying to do a video every day this week, at least one video every day this week. Now we're in the studio, as you can see. It's a work in progress, but we will get there. But there's going to be a video every day this week. Hopefully it will be good stuff. The next aim, I want to react to a couple of interviews I've just seen on DAZN for Beterbiev Bivol, but also I want to do a analysis of Madrimov and Ortiz Jr. I've already started working on it, but it's obviously time consuming. I'll get it done if I can. At the very least, I will make a video where I talk through my observations. And I will do a full card prediction as well. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this one. And as I always say, on to the next one.